Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. My name is gzduel, here today to present to you my Fabled deck profile for the January 2014 format. I've had lots of fun playing this deck, so I highly recommend it to you guys. Without further ado, let me get into the deck profile itself. For the monsters, we have 1 BLS, 3 Fabled Grimro, 1 Honest, 1 Birdman, 2 Kushano, 3 Tour Guide, 3 Cruise, 3 Lurie, and 1 Battle Fader. For the spells, we have 1 Allure of Darkness, 1 Dark Hole, 3 Upstart Goblin, 2 Dark World Dealings, 1 Foolish Burial, 1 Book of Moon, and 2 Forbidden Lances. For the traps, we have 1 Bottomless, 3 Legacy of Yatagarasu, 3 Jar of Greed, 1 Compulsory Evacuation, 2 Fiendish Chains, and 1 Solemn Warning. For the extra deck, we have 1 Michael the Lightsworn Arc, 1 Black Rose Dragon, 1 Ancient Sacred Wyvern, 1 Fabled Reagan, 1 Armades, 1 Cataster, 2 Fabled Unicore. It's spelled Unicore, Unicore, if you're looking for this card. 1 Armory Arm. For the XYZ, we have 1 Leviathan Dragon, 1 Alucard, 1 Leviair, 1 Mechwhip Engineer, 1 Zenmaines, and finally we have 1 Slacker Magician or Shiny Magician. For the side deck, we have 2 Soul Takers, 3 Mystical Space Typhoon, 2 Twister, 2 Vanity's Emptiness, 2 Mistakes, 2 Mind Drain, and 2 DNA Surgery. So just some key cards in this deck I want to talk about. I want to talk about Birdman. Birdman's really good. It has really good synergy with the Tour Guide engine. You can summon out Tour Guide, bring out something from your deck, and then use Birdman, return Tour Guide, and then you can XYZ with Birdman. Second of all, it's a dark target, so you can use Allure of Darkness with it if you have it in your hand. Third of all, is a level 3 tuner, so you can use it in conjunction to tune with whatever card you want to get into some synchros that you need. And lastly, it's a rank 3, so you can, it's a level 3, so you can XYZ with a rank level 3 monster like Kushano, and then once it gets detached from the XYZ, it goes to your graveyard, so it contributes as a dark target for you to remove to summon out BLS. So it has a really great synergy with this deck overall, so I highly recommend it to play. I also play a teched in Battle Fader. Battle Fader is not bad because your Fable deck is susceptible to getting OTK'd in the early game, especially when you have a lot of these Jar of Greeds and stuff like that, so you have to wait a couple of turns to get into the cards that you actually need. You need to protect yourself from decks like Karakuris and Heretics that will just try to kill you early in the early game. So you need this to stop OTKs. Second of all is a dark target, so you can use a little darkness. That's always good. Third of all, you can use this to synchro with Fabled Kushano in order to get into Unicore. So you can use the effect, special summon it out itself, and then you can just normal summon your Kushano, and then you can go into your Unicore. So that's pretty simple. If you happen to have Kushano in your hand in the field already, and you can just normal summon out your Battle Fader to act as the level 1 base to get into your Unicore anyways, if it gets sent to the graveyard, then you can also use it as a target for BLS. So that's really good. For the spells, we have 2 Dark World Dealings I want to talk about. Dark World Dealings is not a bad card. It does minus you just a little bit, but at the same time, it helps you balance out some of the cards in your hand as well as your opponent's hand. So what I mean is if your opponent has like 4 set back row and only has 2 cards in his hand, and you have like 4 cards in your hand, 3 of them are monsters, you really can't get rid of it. You can use the 4th card, which is your Dark World Dealings, to try to mitigate that, to try to discard 1 card extra so that you can balance out the number of cards in your hand as your opponent's hand. Plus, it has really great synergy with Cruise. It acts like a monster reborn for Fabled monsters. It also allows you to activate Lurie's effect to bring it to special summon itself. So it has pretty great synergy. Plus, you get to draw 1 extra card to add the consistency of your deck. So overall, that's really good. I also played 2 Forbidden Lances over Mystical Space Typhoon because in addition to doing what Mystical Space Typhoon allows you to do to an extent, it allows you to protect your monster from spell and traps, allows you to protect your Unicore from, getting compulsed, etc. It also allows your Unicore to have to stand more of a chance in terms of battling. So your Unicore is only 2,300 attack. A lot of monsters can run it over. But if you have Forbidden Lands, you can chain it during damage step, destroy your opponent's monsters who have higher attack than you. You save your Unicore both from spell and traps and from being destroyed by battle. So it's much more versatile than Missile Space Typhoon. But with that said, you still want to side Missile Space Typhoon, and I'll talk about why later. the really cool thing about this deck I want to talk about is the draw engine over here. In addition to 3 Upstart Goblins, which I kind of always play now, I also have 3 Yatagarasu and 3 Jar of Greed. This, in addition to helping your deck become more consistent, also helps you adjust the number of cards in your hand and your opponent's hand. So on your opponent's turn, he draws into a card and he might play it or he might not play it. So you really have to roll the dice here for traditional Unicore decks, because if your opponent decides, hey, you know what, I'm going to set 2 cards and then I'm going to keep the cards in my hand. I'm just going to activate the cards that I've already set, like a compulse. I can get rid of your Unicore and your Unicorn becomes useless. So you can just activate Jar of Greed or Yatagarasu to balance out the number of cards in your hand as well as your opponent's hand on Chainlink 2, and then when Chainlink 1 tries to resolve, it will be negated by the effect of Unicore. So that's a really cool thing you can do to manipulate your advantage. Now, in the extra deck, not that much needs explanation, I guess, except that I don't play Kudabi, the other level 4 fabled monster, because I don't see it ever becoming more useful than Unicore itself. You only want to use it when you're like down in advantage, when you don't have that many cards in your hands, whereas for Unicore is good for all situations. So I decided not to play that. In its place, I decided to play Michael the Lightsworn Arc. All it requires is one tuner and 1 or more non-tuner light monsters, which your fabled monsters are, so that's no problem. You can synchro with a Birdman in order to get into your Lightsworn Arc, and Lightsworn Arc has a super awesome effect. Pay 1,000 life points, banish 1 card on the field. That's just amazing. So you should play this. And yeah, that's all I really want to talk about for the side for the extra deck. Onto the side deck, we need the 2 Soul Takers just to get rid of monsters that will try to lock you down. Monsters like Photon Strike Bouncer, Abyss Gaios, the story, like Christia, the story. You really want to get rid of them before you can go off. 3 Missile Space Typhoon, as well as 2 Twister, because you have no spell and trap removal in the deck. You're depending on the effect of your Unicore to try to negate spell and traps in this case. But in case your opponent has like a heavy trap lineup, you want to put these in as well. If your opponent is siding against you and they're putting in things like Soul Drain, and they're using things like Vanity's Emptiness against you, you really need these cards to get rid of them. Plus, these cards are not bad when you're facing the top meta decks. You can use this to Missile Space Typhoon a Tenki, you can use this to destroy a field card for the spellbooks, and you also can use this to destroy to chain to a Abyss Sphere to negate the effect, so that's pretty good. Also, for the traps, we have 2 Vanity's Emptiness, because like I said, you kind of lose out to decks that are faster than you that can just like special summon out all of their monsters, so you need to mitigate that. You play 2 Mistakes, because other than just the Grimrow, you really don't add cards from your deck into your hand. You draw cards, but you don't add cards. So Mistake really doesn't hinder you, whereas it hurts like the top meta decks like Bujins, like Fire Fist, you name it. Also, we play 2 Mind Drain, because I've noticed that this deck will kind of lose to hand traps, because hand traps kind of manipulate the number of cards in your opponent's hand. So in order to activate Veiler or in order to activate Maxi, they have to discard it, right? So that'll create an imbalance of cards in their hand to your hand. So in order to stop that, you want to use Mind Drain so that they can't activate their hand traps in the first place. That'll help you keep a relatively easier you'll have a relatively easier time keeping the balance between the 2 of your hands. And lastly, we have DNA Surgery, because it doesn't really matter what type you call for your deck. It doesn't influence you whatsoever. You can call Fiends if you want. You can call Dinosaurs if you want. Unfortunately, you can't play Logia, but it's okay because you have Unicore, and I think sometimes Unicore has more negating power than Logia does. So yeah, that's all I really want to say about this deck. If you have any questions, like always, feel free to drop in the comment section down below. If you have any suggestions as well, I'd love to hear them. And yeah, just have fun playing this deck. I highly recommend it. And other than that, this is gzduel signing out.